Welcome in. Game Time Decisions is live right here on SportsGrid on a Monday night. I am Kevin Walsh with you for the next 2 hours, where, of course, we will focus on the bracket. The field of 68 is set, and we have time to dissect the updated futures market where there has been a ton of movement. Of course, there are game lines out and available now. We'll be going through those as well. A lot of people will talk to tonight, excited to get into the mix with Joe Lisi, who will be a big part of our coverage here of the NCAA tournament throughout the month of March. Dave Sharapan, Joe Ranieri, a lot for us to dive into here on SportsGrid tonight. We will hit what is a lighter NBA board as per riddled with injuries, updated lines. It is only a 2-game slate of ice. What is everybody doing laying out on a Monday? I mean, it's college hoops from here on out. Tomorrow, it begins the play-in rounds. Coach James Young will be with us as we go through everything for the beginning of the tournament, as well as a delightful-looking NIT that we get the chance to break down. So a lot of good stuff over these 2 hours, a lot of good stuff coming up tomorrow, and we are on the run to the tournament, which begins Thursday. SportsGrid's coverage ramping up. Credit everybody last night involved with the Bracket Central. We're live starting noon, live in-studio coverage all the way up until 10 p.m. Coverage goes throughout the night, so don't you worry. We have you covered here on SportsGrid with some game time decisions starting it here for you. Let's bring the radio audience into the fold. SiriusXM, channel 159. I'm Kevin Walsh. It is Game Time Decisions, as we said with you on this Monday night. Let's look at the bracket. Let's put eyes on it, huh? I mean, as always, when you get a bracket, you start to fill it out. Things start to move quickly. A lot of people all of a sudden, they slam every 1 seed in there. Remember, they force an upset. But when you see the East, that is one of the takeaways. And we're going to dive into this. What I'm going to also do in just a moment here is let everybody know where I stand. And I'd hope some of you then are in the same spot futures-wise for this tournament. Maybe you don't have all 7. Maybe you have 2, maybe you have 5, maybe you have 1, maybe you're looking to fade them, whatever it might be. We're going to go through those in just a moment. Quick thoughts on each of these regions. What you're hearing about the East is correct. It is almost poetic. A year after the committee embarrassingly put UConn as a 4 seed, they follow that up by giving the defending national champs the best 4 seed possible with Auburn, who is currently a top 5 team on KenPom, as well as in the net, and won the SEC tournament. What are we doing? I have no idea. And not only is the SEC conference champ here with the Big East conference champ, so is the Big Ten conference champ in Illinois, as well as the Big 12 conference champion in Iowa State. Also, you have San Diego State and Florida Atlantic, who were in the Final Four last year. There is a lot of talent within this East region. Being the top overall seed got UConn locationally where they want to be. As far as opponents, nothing about this is easy. Let's drop down to the West quickly. The story of this bracket is while North Carolina got the 1 seed, again, we're going to go through the odds in just a moment here on the show, it is Arizona that has seemingly been given the gift, booked as the favorite in this region because it is the West region, giving them a location advantage. Also, the Michigan State respect continues. A lot of people will tell you that UNC's round 2 matchup will be more difficult than what Arizona has to deal with in the bottom of this bracket. A couple of darlings in New Mexico and Grand Canyon catching the eye of people. I will add quickly, especially when you look at New Mexico, a lot of the stuff that we saw from the committee yesterday was illogical, indefensible. It was double talking. It didn't line up whatsoever. Where are the Johnnies is a relevant question, but the bracket that we have is the bracket that we have, and it's the bracket we'll break down. Let's shoot up south quickly here. Shoot up south, you get the point, where the top-seeded Houston Cougars are looking at what I actually feel is the most dangerous 8-9 game with respect to Mississippi State and Michigan State. Texas A&M can score with anyone, can beat anyone. Nebraska has really rounded into form throughout February into March, a top 40 team, both offensive and defensive efficiency in college basketball. Also, a dangerous JMU team getting a lot of respect. Kentucky, I do think, grabbed a favorable draw with their matchup against Oakland out of the horizon. And, of course, a play-in matchup here between Boise and Colorado. Both teams better than the bubble. It is, again, what it is, and that's just what we were given. Let's drop down quickly here to this. What is left here? The Midwest region, of course, excuse me. Purdue. There's going to be, I'll tell you this, whoever wins the Montana State Grambling game will be the most bet on 16 seed of the entire opening round. We know that to be true. It will be one of the, I would bet, 10 at minimum most popular moneyline wagers of the opening round is that 16 seed against Purdue. But what also stands out here, Samford, McNeese State, two teams that are mid-majors that a lot of people are excited for. How are their draws? Kansas and Gonzaga. Listen, I am obviously high on Gonzaga. Kansas, we have to see how healthy they are. Tennessee, Creighton at the bottom. Virginia, Colorado State is the other play-in game. All right, futures-wise, here's where I stand. I just want to let people know it helps. It gives you an idea of what I'm looking at, what I'm rooting on as this goes on. Final four. 3 bets placed prior to the tournament beginning. North Carolina at plus 480. The thought was they could still grab a 1 seed. They did. I was expecting better value. Arizona and the love that they're getting out west has prevented that. I still am happy with the position. BYU 16-1. That number's down to 10-1. For that, it's a nice job. They were supposed to be the best 5th seed. Instead, they're a 6th, but they still got Duquesne. So you'll take it, but of course, they're in the East region, along with an Auburn future. That's not how that, and a San Diego State future, who's also in the East region. The risk you take when you play in preseason or before the bracket drops. San Diego State's not actually presenting value, came back a touch 17-1. But for San Diego State, as somebody with, let's pop over to the national title futures here. Here's the deal with San Diego State. I fully expect Auburn to beat Yale. So SDSU will, I believe, if they can beat UAB, they'll play Auburn. And then at least we have a future head-to-head where someone is going to be moving on to the next round. National title futures, a lot of movement here. It has either gone very well or very poorly. This Alabama number here, this is a little off. This is at 50-1, certainly not 140, as awesome as that would be. The Auburn, 80-1, and the Wisconsin, 125-1. Happy about. Again, the draws aren't the easiest, but I'll take it where it is. Gonzaga 35-1, just so you know. These are preseason bets. That is why this is not just me, patting my back here. Gonzaga, we've lost a lot of value. They're down at 75-1, but this is where I am invested before it all begins. There are still potentially other investments to make. We'll get to those on the other side of the break here. It's Game Time Decisions. SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance.
That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca. Only on SportsGrid.
Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough Jr. are not going to be fully healthy for the NCAA tournament. I think KU might be in danger of a very early round of 64 exit in the Big Dance.
They're playing really, really good defense, and to me, that's what you need this time of year. You got to be playing great defensively to give yourself a chance. Not like Kentucky, who gave up 97 last night.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. All right, let's make it happen. Game Time Decisions. I hear you, the viewer, the listener. We need a pick. Quick pick. Kristaps, over 27.5 points plus rebounds. Injuries tonight for the Celtics. No Drew Holiday, no Al Horford. And it's possible one of Tatum or Jaylen Brown missed this game, with it being the second leg of a back-to-back. Kristaps missed the front end of it there, but he's been on a heater, 20-plus very consistently. Extra rebounds available. And Kristaps has been very good at beating up on bad basketball teams. So that's why the 15.5-point number. I'm not worried about, blowout, less minutes. I think Kristaps can actually hit this through points alone. I think the rebounds are the cherry on top. So it's going to be Kristaps Porzingis over 27.5 points plus rebounds. Now, just because I want to get you a little extra juice here, let's throw Davis Maddock in the mix. He's looking late night. Hawks, Lakers, certainly one that LA needs to be able to get against this banged-up Atlanta team. Anthony Davis, questionable, left early against that game against Golden State, but is expected to play. Let's see what Davis Maddock likes tonight in Hawks, Lakers.
All right, guys, we are back for another same game parlay over on the FanDuel Sportsbook. We have been riding the Atlanta Hawks without Trae Young as they continue their quest in the play-in in the Eastern Conference, and we're going to take them again tonight against the Los Angeles Lakers. The Atlanta Hawks plus 8.5 on the road against the Lakers. Honestly, in this new lower scoring NBA environment, I'm liking to take pretty big dogs, but also just don't think the Lakers are the sort of caliber of a team that should really be 8, 9, 10-point favorites against other competent NBA teams. We're also going to take the under on 227 in this game, continuing to be on the under side since the All-Star break. Unders are hitting at over 61%, probably due to some changes in NBA officiating. And then the final leg is, of course, going to be Dejounte Murray to score 20 or more points, as he does pretty much every single night. You guys know I've been riding the Murray train without Trae Young in the lineup. This 3-leg same-game parlay gives us plus 314 odds. Hawks plus 8.5, under 227, and Dejounte Murray to record 20 or more points. Good luck tonight, everybody.
All right, appreciate the breakdown there from Davis Maddock. I will say DeJounte Murray has some juice. if you're willing to fade LeBron as a top point scorer in this game. On that notion, I do like D'Angelo Russell's points plus assists at 23.5 in that game. LeBron off of a game with 40 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, I think can just come back to the fold a little bit. We're wondering how we see AD play in this game. I expect D'Lo to fill it up there, 23.5 points plus assists. Let's bracket it up. By the way, Tom Vecchio's here in 10 minutes' time. We're going to get some more picks on the board. NBA, NHL, might even mix in a little baseball talk for you. Once again, you see the bracket. Let's put some odds behind this here. Let's look at odds to make the Final Four, a.k.a. odds to win the region that you are in. We'll start with the East. We'll start with the top overall seed, and we will start with the favorite to win this tournament, the UConn Huskies. But this is a tough. It is undeniably tough. Iowa State is plus 450. Auburn 5-1, Illinois 8-1. If you are willing to go outside of that top four, and ironically enough, I have 2 of my 3 Final Four in this region outside of it, the draw is unfortunate. It is what it is. That's the risk I took playing those beforehand. It's just how it goes. But what stands out to me is the closeness here. And what that is tied to is Auburn is better than Iowa State. The books believe it. It's that Iowa State does not have to play UConn until a potential matchup in the Elite Eight. And if they meet there, Iowa State's power rating would continue to grow. Maybe UConn got lucky and didn't have to even run through some of the tougher potential options there. And you would see the Cyclones number be close enough that if you wanted to play that and work off that number, it would obviously line up and present some value. Illinois is at 8-1, is also near the bottom of this bracket. If I was going to look to reinvest, it actually would be on BYU. People would probably roll their eyes, but of course it would be. I think Iowa State could be upset in the round of 32. Same with Illinois. I worry about that defense. I think Illinois could get dropped by Morehead State. I think BYU at the bottom of the bracket, looking to potentially hedge off of either UConn or Auburn. I think one of those teams are absolutely getting to the Elite Eight, and then you go from there. Let's pull the West region in. This is something we just talked about right at the top of the open here, right? North Carolina, while there's some value on that number that was near 5-1, despite being the 1 seed, is not the favorite. Some of that is the location. Some of that is the draw. What does that mean? Well, here's Nevada, the 10 seed, who would play against Arizona if they beat the higher seeded Dayton at the 7, who doesn't even make this top 10. Meanwhile, here's Mississippi State at the same number as Nevada, and everybody's darling Michigan State, where one of those teams is going to be playing North Carolina after they dispatch of whichever 16 seed that they play. That is a huge reason that we get here. People looking to hit the bottom of the bracket would see Baylor. If you want to fade North Carolina, you would be looking towards Alabama. The New Mexico number is remarkable. The 11 seed in this bracket with the 6th best odds to make it through. And in fact, if you look, Clemson, who they're going to play in that 11-6 game, is beneath them because New Mexico is favored in that game. Admittedly, some of the concern for New Mexico is how many people you hear speaking so favorably about them. Can an 11 seed make this type of run and it be that easy to see coming? That's the worry for me. The fair counterpoint would be they're not an 11. We know they're not an 11. It's why they're favored over a 6 in Clemson. Let's shoot up to the South region here, where Houston is, of course, going to be the favorite to make it through this bracket. The Cougs, along with UConn and Purdue, have been booked so favorably all season long. The challenge points for Houston within their region, Kentucky, of course, always booked favorably, always bet often. In between Houston and Kentucky, you will find Marquette and Duke. Marquette, the 2 seed, Duke, the 4. A lot of people now have been tweeting out about KenPom and the usual benchmarks you need to hit about offensive and defensive efficiency, and Duke is just right outside that with their defense just below, I believe, the 25th spot. I think at 26 overall. Duke checks so many boxes when you look at the metrics. There's a couple of wins there, but not enough of the wins. The Michigan State, the Baylor's okay, but the home loss to Arizona, getting swept by North Carolina, and then losing in the way they did to NC State in that ACC tournament. It's why people don't have as much confidence. The preseason Wisconsin look draws a tough one in JMU. I am sure some people will take an off the board here, and they're bettable, but just not inside the top 10. Some people will be taking pieces of JMU with the thought that they can get through Wisconsin, and then they could either they could probably get through Duke as well. They, of course, hold that win over Michigan State, which was big for them. Finally, the Midwest. Fascinating. The top two teams are two of the most difficult teams to trust. Creighton is also not, I don't trust Creighton one bit, but narrative and Purdue coaches and their history in Purdue and Tennessee with Matt Painter and Rick Barnes. But they're the top two teams, and they're pretty clearly the top two teams within this. Admittedly, the way the draw is balanced out here, I'm a bit tempted by the Vols, especially because I don't like Creighton. If you take a look at it, here's Tennessee as the 2. If you don't like Creighton, Gonzaga and Kansas are the 4 and the 5. And there's a big tier drop-off when you get down here to Texas, who's the 7 seed in this bracket. We know playing teams get dangerous. So don't be surprised if Texas makes some noise and they're able to get involved here and they're able to eliminate, or if Texas is eliminated, rather, by the winner of Virginia, Colorado State. That is just often how these things go. Tennessee is one of those teams that has caught my attention here. And again, there's a lot of updated markets. It's not just Final Four wagers, but you can bet teams to make the Sweet 16 or teams to even bet the Elite 8. We're going to find some value out there. Let's just quickly put eyes on the national title odds, where everything checks in before this tournament gets underway. UConn plus 370, continuing that separation. Houston 6-1, right there with Purdue. Arizona creating separation from North Carolina and Tennessee. You see these top teams from the East region rounding it out. And if you look at 11 through 20 down there, a lot of those blue bloods still checking in. The Kentuckys, the Kansases, the Dukes of the world. We'll see how it all plays out. We get picks on tonight's card from Tom Vecchio next. SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca. Only on SportsGrid.
Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough Jr. are not going to be fully healthy for the NCAA tournament. I think KU might be in danger of a very early round of 64 exit in the Big Dance.
They're playing really, really good defense, and to me, that's what you need this time of year. You got to be playing great defensively to give yourself a chance. Not like Kentucky, who gave up 97 last night.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
In the mix. What else could it mean? Tom Vecchio here on a Monday. What a treat for the people, Tom. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, no early line this morning, so I'm hopping on Game Time Decisions today. I'll be on the early line tomorrow. But yeah, it's a lot going on. Super busy time of the calendar. I'm ready to go.
It is. I want to start with a bracket question for you because you've mentioned college basketball is not necessarily your bag. You'll fill out a bracket. My question for you, though, is someone who is so accustomed to, giving out picks, doing breakdowns, putting the research in. When you fill out the bracket, are you able to separate yourself and just, okay? Or do you then peel through and tack on 7-8 hours of research for yourself to fill out a bracket?
I'll go as far as I think defensive metrics, especially for underdog teams that have a lot of veterans on them, are something I like to key in on. I always think back to the Lehigh team that had C.J. McCollum on it that beat Duke, and then Duke also lost the next year to Princeton, because those teams had juniors and seniors that have been playing together for 3 or 4 years compared to Duke or any young team, not just Duke, just obviously in this example, but that have a bunch of freshmen and sophomore that are like one and dones or just about to leave. So you have 22-year-olds playing against 18 or 19-year-olds that have been playing together for 3 or 4 years. Like, that matters, especially when it comes to this point in the season. So I go as far as looking at defensive metrics for like good teams from the mid-majors that can really actually upset the favorites.
I'm always fascinated by the mid-majors that are super balanced too, right? I'll use St. Peter's as an example. The offense is atrocious. The defense relatively is fantastic. The teams that manage, like Yale, beat Auburn because I think highly of Auburn, but Yale's top 100 in both. I think that is impressive. Let's put some stuff on the board tonight for people. We're also going to bring some baseball into the fold. The Dodgers season is right around the corner. We can focus in on them. And then also next week on a Tuesday, the 26th, we're going to do our full Game Time Decisions baseball futures show, which would not be complete without Tom Vecchio in the fold, so we'll hit that as well. Let's just start with this. Tom, you were going to bet Jimmy Butler. He's out. Is there any way to pivot off of that, or is it just now, unfortunately, a lost cause, the Heat going up against the Philadelphia 76ers tonight?
Yeah, Jimmy getting ruled out like 20 minutes ago, and I thought this was just a big Jimmy game. He sat out yesterday versus the Pistons, and I thought this was kind of like a planned rest. Well, he sits out against the Pistons, going up against his former team tonight. It's also a more important game, you could say, versus a tougher opponent. I thought he would play. He's not. I think Jaime Jaquez is awesome. I think he has a ton of potential. I would look to a points plus rebounding prop, depending on where that is. I just haven't seen anything posted. I've also been looking for some Caleb Martin props just because that's what I'm doing. I want to some player that's going to be out there because he has to be out there, right? There's still no Kevin Love. There's still no Tyler Hero. Like, their rotation is actually kind of thin. So it's not Jimmy. This game is a 207 over under now. I don't know what it is, 208. It's super low. So maybe like points plus rebounds for one of those players.
All right, yeah, something to key in on. I don't think you're right. Nothing's really up currently in that regard, but we'll keep tabs on it for the people. It is too. It's kind of lost, and I get it. But like, Tyler Hero is hardly playing basketball. It feels like, and Hero missed the finals last year. Hero was nearly traded for Lillard this year. He's a 20-point-per-game scorer. He's a winner of the Sixth Man of the Year award. Like, at some point, this Heat team needs to really be able to roll out their best lineup. And it's been a long time since they've been able to do that consistently, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, between him coming off the bench along with Kevin Love, they added Terry Rozier. Like, you think that team kind of actually has all the parts to compete in the East as they do every playoffs. Yep. But it's like, it's the same thing we said about the Knicks a couple of weeks ago. It's like, let me know when they're fully healthy. Just like, let me know when that happens, and then we can move forward from there, because the Knicks look good once they got OG back. But once Randall actually comes back, that's when I'll have the interest, and we're just not at that point yet for the Knicks or the Heat.
Yeah, 100%. You are going to make a play, though, in the game tonight between the Pacers and the Cavs. Indiana at home, about a 6.5 point favorite in this game. What are you looking for here?
I'm loving Darius Garland, especially now that Donovan Mitchell is off the court. We look to Garland for over 29.5 points plus assists. He's got a team-high 30% usage rate when Mitchell's off the court. He's averaging 17.3 field goal attempts per 36. That puts him at about 24-7, just under 24 points, and 7 assists per 36. Not a surprise, a high over-under versus the Pacers. It's also a pace-up spot against the Pacers, who play super fast, don't play defense. Cavs also need to come back and pick up some wins. They're not in a really safe spot in the standings. They can move up one or two, whatever it is, up and down, just because the East is really tight. And Garland plus Jared Allen have to have big games tonight if they're going to keep this close or come away with the win, which I'm not entirely sure it's going to happen.
Yeah, Garland off of a bad one. The volume's there. He looks more comfortable also. Because at times with Donovan Mitchell out, Garland probably wasn't sure. Am I facilitating? Am I attacking? He's attacking more, which is nice. Let me just ask you this quickly. I know it's a super light board on the NHL. It's only 2 games. Is there anything that's been catching your attention just throughout the league? One thing that caught my eye, I think it was a weekend game, the Oilers and the Avs, and I appreciated how NBA it was, where the single game moved the market. McDavid didn't get a point in the home game, and McKinnon had an assist on the overtime winning goal, and it created that extra separation for the Hart Trophy.
Yeah, we're getting to the point in the season where I think I'm going to say all the awards are basically solidified, where Connor Hellebuyck's going to win the Vezina, Bedard's going to win the Calder, Quinn Hughes is going to win the Norris, McDavid is not going to win the Hart. It's going to be McKinnon. McKinnon can also win the Art Ross for most points. Matthews is going to win the Rocket Richard. Everything is solidified at this point in the season, so it does make those tough to bet. The one thing I'll say that we get to this point in the season for NHL is I specifically will only bet on teams' money lines that are in the playoff race. They have to be winning games. I also think it gets tough to bet on teams in regulation, the 60-minute money line, which is my favorite to bet, because if a team's minus 175 on the regular money line, you can probably get them at minus 115 to win in regulation. Teams are playing super safe. They're playing super slow, especially gets to the end of the game. They want to get that extra point. So the 3-way money line is getting tougher and tougher to bet at this point in the year.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. All right, let's talk some baseball. I know you have some futures on deck. If we have time, we'll get to them, because the worst case is we'll be able to hit those in a bit. I want to just talk to you about the Dodgers, because you brought this up a few weeks back, actually, here on the show, of let's just bet against the Dodgers, all 162, and see if it works out. We have the odds up right now here on FanDuel for the first games of Dodgers baseball that is going to count. So the Dodgers in the first game, Glasnow Darvish, minus 194, but more importantly, the Padres number is plus 162. And then in the second game, Yamamoto against Musgrove, a plus 140 number on the Padres. So a split, and it's profit. Where are you at right now on the Dodgers heading into this season?
Yeah, so my take on the Dodgers is if you just simply fade them enough times, you'll come out profitable, because the money lines for the opposing teams are just going to be so valuable on an individual basis. At this point for the Dodgers, I mean, when it comes to this game, where this matchup specifically, I think it's obviously tough. I actually need to dig into the park metrics for the Seoul series specifically to see what this park equates to, what the elevation is, what the park dimensions are, and does that trend towards being a pitcher's park or a hitter's park. I will say early in the season, specifically for these pitchers, which I'm going to be very heavy on, unders for Glasnow, unders for Darvish and Musgrove when it comes to strikeouts. They're not fully stretched out, as it would be even if they were here. And they're also traveling. So I think they're going to be very, very hesitant, especially with Glasnow, a player who's been injured before, to push them forward. He's not even going to hit 85 or 90 pitches. So unders on strikeouts for all pitchers really to start the season.
That's definitely an important note to make there, because people love their strikeout props. People love overs. You got to be cautious early. Let me speak to you about a guy who will have no strikeout props this year, Shohei Ohtani. If Ohtani was able to pitch and, of course, still hit, I think at this point, the lowest number you would see preseason on the MVP award would be plus 100. I think that's where we're at with Ohtani. He's not pitching. He's plus 950. Can he win this without pitching?
It's tough because his hitting metrics are good in terms of production, but to say that he's a better hitter than Acuna is a bit of a stretch for me, right? And that's what it comes down to. Will Acuna actually have more counting stats in certain areas? And if Acuna does what he did last year with stolen bases, which Ohtani can steal bases, but he's not going to have 60 or 70 like Acuna can. If Acuna goes for 40 and 60, and he puts up the same, peripheral stats as we do OPS and whatnot with Ohtani, it's tough not to give it to Acuna at that point. So I think having a number at closer to 10 or 12 to 1 for Ohtani, if that's where he gets to at some point in the beginning few months of the season, that's where I jump in, just because it's Ohtani and people are just going to vote for him. But at this point, at sub 10 to 1, it's not a spot that I'm taking.
I think the thing for me, Tom, is so the selling point on Ohtani would be all the protection, right? Mookie in front, Freddie in back, which is outrageous. You can't even be like, oh, well, he had Trout. Well, Trout missed so much baseball. The problem, though, is I don't know if we will ever see a DH win MVP ever again. It's why Yordan is not something I can really consider. WAR is so important to this award. It's why Ohtani should be a cheat code to win every MVP when he's doing both, right? Yeah. It's why Judge completely deserved it the year he beat out Ohtani, and people should get over that. And I'm still not over how many people think Judge didn't deserve it, even though he won it. I don't know why, but I am. I think it just makes for a really interesting situation, too, because this is where people, see how different, this well, Tom, how different the NBA is than baseball. Like, 3 guys are inside the top 4 from the Dodgers to an NL MVP. In the NBA, they never would post who's the best example, Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps, I guess. Like, it's just such a different and unique situation there, and I'm excited to get into it. And again, we'll get into this a lot more next week. Tom had some great ones here. I feel a bit bad that I held him out from the people, but you just got to follow him at Tom Vecchio 1 to be able to get all the juice there. Tom, appreciate it. We'll do it next week. We'll continue to break it down here. We're live with you on SportsGrid. SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca. Only on SportsGrid.
Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough Jr. are not going to be fully healthy for the NCAA tournament. I think KU might be in danger of a very early round of 64 exit in the big dance.
They're playing really, really good defense, and to me, that's what you need this time of year. You got to be playing great defensively to give yourself a chance. Not like Kentucky, who gave up 97 last night.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Back with you here. It's Game Time Decisions. I'm joined by Joe Ranieri as we get set for the tournament. We can hit tonight's games if there's time. But, Joe, I mean, what a 40 minutes it was watching that bracket pour out. Man, was there any one thing that stood out to you as they dropped that field of 68?
Yeah, I thought there were a couple of interesting things, right? I don't think the committee did North Carolina any favors by, sending them across the country in the Western bracket there.
Yes.
Because Arizona is very, shall we say, dangerous, depending on if they show up or they don't show up here. I thought Purdue got handed maybe the easiest trip to the Elite Eight in there. I also thought that immediately, and I think we were pretty spot on when it was happening last night. I was on with Scotty Wetzel last night in that 6 to 7 o'clock hour as it was happening in real time. And I said, just give it 24 hours and watch how many people bet Samford. Watch how many people fade Kansas. Watch how many people jump all over McNeese State. Watch these lines go and get out of control. Watch how many people are going to love Auburn, right? Recency bias is a real thing when it comes to March Madness. Everybody loves Auburn, right? Okay, well, where were you 6 weeks ago when they looked a lot like what Arizona looked like? Like, yeah, they got a ton of talent, but who the hell knows who's going to show up? So, there's a lot of back and forth with March Madness. I think that the bets that you should have gotten in already were any of the future bets on some teams that you like, whether it be Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four, Championship. I think there are still some good numbers available on teams like Tennessee, St. Mary's. You can go down even North Carolina. Obviously, UConn is the favorite, and they should be. I would look to do some sort of money line rollover with UConn if that's the direction you're going to go here, if you think they win it. But I do think it is more wide open this year than in years past. And that doesn't mean we're going to get a bunch of 12 seeds winning and 11 seeds. Yeah. I'm just thinking it's not as easy for UConn as some people may think it is right now.
Well, I think what's so interesting is I'm someone who bet Auburn preseason, right?
No, good.
And so, but here's the thing, Joe, right? I did everything that I was supposed to. And the team that I bet preseason is 4th in KenPom, 5th in the net, and 4th in their region. Like, what are we doing, man? Like, what are we doing? I get it. I know that they lost to the majority of the good teams that they played. I'm well aware of that. I think also all but one of their victories this season was by double digits, and there was almost 30 of those. It's one of those things where you have a great number, and then you end up having to play UConn in the Sweet 16. Like, yeah, correct. I don't want to bet UConn anymore, right? I know you and I think I saw, CT mention it. Grab UConn early. Genius. Great move. But I can't bet them under 4-1 now at spots. No, I can't. I'm too late. It's hard to go back to back. If you bet that, you really can't have any other bets on the board. So, but that's now. I'd be stunned if that wasn't the Sweet 16 game. What do you do from there? that's where this bracket gets dropped, and you almost go, well, all right. I had a BYU future. I guess I should have been prepared that since they can't play on Sunday, they'd have to drop a seed line.
That's
seed
correct.
line. They were supposed to be the top 5th seed. They'd have dropped down to a 6. Now they get to play Duquesne. But it's like there's so much more chaos than even just the fact that St. John's didn't get in or New Mexico being in 11.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that too. Have you seen? This is the first time in a long time, and I haven't screamed it, but there's a group of guys that I know each and every year. We love the NIT, we love the CBI, we love these other tournaments because while the mass public is so fixated on what's coming up Thursday and Friday, that the markets and the numbers have been fantastic in years past. Some really good opportunities to cash a few tickets here, especially in the NIT, because eventually, what we're looking for there is teams who don't want to beat teams that got, shut out of the tournament, could care less about any sort of NIT situation there. And you could make some money, on some underdogs coming through. But have you seen this NIT list of teams that is on these? Some of these games are going to be 1,000,000 times more fun than anything we're going to see on Thursday and Friday. We're talking about teams with an axe to grind. You're going to have the Villanovas of the world. You're going to have the VCUs of the world. You're going to have the Princetons of the world. You are going to have a whole lot of teams here, that Cornells of the world. So you're going to have a lot of these mid-majors who were this close, right, to punching their ticket, that are going to want to go after anybody from a Power 5 conference out there. And you're going to have Power 5 conference guys totally pissed off and going, we ain't losing to no mid-major. I think the NIT is set up to be an absolute war, and I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Don't sleep on it.
Let me tell you this, right? We're always honest. Any other year prior to this one, Joe Ranieri brings up the NIT. I scramble to figure out who the heck's in it, make a comment, move on. Because I don't know what's going on. I know the bracket. It is awesome. This
crazy.
Is not. It is so good. It is so good. And listen, usually when we get to the bracket, you start to rip takes. Here's one of my strongest takes in March is that if Cincinnati and UCF both don't perform well in the NIT, then we need to retroactively get a bunch of Big 12 teams out. Because that conference is better than every conference in college basketball, and maybe they are.
Absolutely.
But if they are, Cincinnati needs to see that San Francisco team and beat them by no less than 100 points. That's how I'm seeing it, Joe.
Right, and you don't think South Florida is going to have an axe to grind, that they're not going to want to prove it wasn't a fluke, their 15-game winning streak, and they were I mean, you go down matchup to matchup there, and listen, I'm kind of shocked Villanova accepted it, right? But that just goes to tell you, Villanova's there because they want to be there, right? They're not there because they have to, because the teams that were offered, I think the next 14 are always the ones that get the invite that didn't make it, right? Well, you notice who's not in there. The Johnnies, Oklahoma, right? Those teams that were on the outside looking in, they don't want nothing to do with this tournament, which means the teams that are there because they want to be there. And we are talking some quality teams that could have been a game or two into the tournament who now want to take out that frustration on some other teams. And you may open it up, UCF, USF, a Battle of Florida. Whoo, buckle up. The NIT is going to be fun.
Indiana State gets back in the fold, everybody's favorite team. I was upset they didn't get in because I thought I was going to be able to fade them. And also I'm grabbing SMU plus the points. We're in the mix.
Boom.
I have no less than 7 times Googled NIT future odds. I can't find them. Maybe I don't know if that's a Jersey thing. I don't know what. Open them up. We got moves to make here.
The game starts tomorrow. They open tomorrow. Going to be and they're going to be so much fun too, watching it unfold.
I never do this, right? But tomorrow, those 16 seeds are going to be out there, right, playing one another. That's something to do. And then all of a sudden, you're going to be looking at it. You're like, now hold on a minute. they're real basketball teams playing instead of Wagner and Howard.
Right.
Like maybe the
That's
two worst
correct.
teams in this entire whole thing. So I could not agree more. I am curious though with I mean, look, now the less important tournament, the field of 68.
Yes.
Is there a game line you've already hit? One that jumped out and you felt you had to grab it right away?
Yeah, so I made a couple of bets this morning right away. I also like the idea that we're going to have some teams out of sight, out of mind, right? And I think St. Mary's is one of those teams that I don't think people remember, because it seems like a year ago they beat Gonzaga and won the West Coast Conference, right? A year ago. Do you realize how good St. Mary's has gotten as the year has gone on? And people will not remember that because there isn't, they were one of the first conferences to finish up here. I think a team that we got to keep an eye on, everybody and their mother loves the 31-32 win James Madison, right? Oh, JMU's going to be great. Wisconsin is going to wipe the floor with them. This is their first year in the tournament. They are going to be one of those trendy dogs here, Kev, that everyone's going to get on them and Samford and, these other. Oh, yeah, it's going to be the dogs. But, yeah, watch teams like Kansas with a bunch of walk-ons off the street will still be good enough to beat Samford. And, oh, yeah, Wisconsin. Yeah, this is not the same. If you didn't realize after that game or the last couple of games of the Big Ten tournament for them, this isn't the Wisconsin of old where first won the 60 wins. This is a team that can shoot. This is a team that has gotten better. And this is a team that is going to wipe the floor with JMU.
I love it. And this is not just someone I'm glad I have a Wisconsin future and a Gonzaga future.
Yep.
But I wish I didn't because people probably think this is why I feel this way. And look, maybe I'm not doing a good job blocking out the noise, but everyone loves JMU. I don't know.
Everybody.
I've done too many of the I've done too many shows with the Joe Ranieris, and I've learned too much to not. Oh, what's that? Everyone loves the 12. Yeah. Listen, and I mean no disrespect, but whenever that bracket show comes out and Seth Davis goes, all right, yeah, I got this 12 seed going all the way to the Elite Eight. Yeah, all right, beat it. That's how my mind works now. McNeese, listen, I know McNeese is talented. I know Will Wade shouldn't be coaching there. I don't care they beat Biblical Studies by 40. They played two teams inside the top 100. Gonzaga is going to score 100 on that team. 100 points. Does anyone understand how? Because to Joe's point about St. Mary's, yes, right? But St. Mary's, who's the favorite all year long, ended up catching almost 4 points from Gonzaga on a neutral in the final of that game because of how good the Zags are playing, Joe.
That's correct. And there are some teams, you've got to separate, fact from reality here. A lot of people this year assumed that South Carolina, that we all had them projected to be a top 3 or 4 team. And yes, nobody saw South Carolina this year being a 6 seed in the tournament. And you know what? They overperformed. You know who they're taking on? A team that underperformed and is coming in as an 11 seed as your Pac-12 champion, who's got the better coach and who has the players who are going to be playing on the NBA. Do not be shocked when Oregon wins a couple of games in this tournament and shocks everyone.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think, and almost, here's the thing, I love that New Mexico team. But too many people do now, so I won't be able to bet them, unfortunately. So I'll just give it to the Oregon side. I just
too
can't.
Trendy. You're 11, yes, too trendy. Yep.
Playing 3 is an 11. Ranieri, you're the best. We'll talk. We'll be right back. It's Game Time Decisions. SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer powered by Marca. Only on SportsGrid.
Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough Jr. are not going to be fully healthy for the NCAA tournament. I think KU might be in danger of a very early round of 64 exit in the Big Dance.
They're playing really, really good defense. And to me, that's what you need this time of year. You got to be playing great defensively to give yourself a chance. Not like Kentucky, who gave up 97 last night.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. All right, we're back. We're in the mix. It's a Monday. I love it, man. I love it. I want to let someone know this. And I appreciate when people always, interact on Twitter. I'm at Kevin Walsh. Try and respond when I can. We appreciate everybody's support. But someone just kind of sent out a message saying, hey, I hope you guys are doing something special for the Madness for the first weekend. We are. I'll let you know right now. Thursday and the Friday look the same, I believe. Thursday at noon when the games start, Ben and Coach are live in the city. At 3 o'clock, Scott Farrell is live and in person with Mike Carver as they get set for that window. At 6 p.m., myself, Donnie take over. Coach is going to jump back in the fold for a few of those hours. And at night, Gabe is live. Nobody better to carry you through the evening all the way up until 1 a.m. That is 11, 13, attaboy, Kev, 13 straight, uninterrupted, live. We're live with the tournament. We are live with the tournament. That Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm starting game time at 11, and by noon, Scott and Coach will be in the mix with me, and we're going for another 4 hours. And then Ben, Donnie, and Lisi will be in the mix from 4 to 8. We're doing it Sunday again. And that's just the first weekend. We're going the whole way. Trust me. We have you covered. I promise you that. The March Madness, we're stepping it up just like you expect us to. Just like we do for the Super Bowl. Just like we do for the NBA draft, just like we do for the NFL draft, just like we'll do when the baseball futures need to be rolled out. We're stepping up, no doubt, no questions about it. And we appreciate your support always. Make sure you're locked in, right? Get that second screen going. And guess what? Put us on both screens. Forget the games. Maybe you can stream it on the phone. I'll allow it. Double up the SportsGrid. We're in the mix. We're locked in. And I'll tell you, here's the deal. Listen, it's going to get gimmicky maybe. I do love this NIT. And also, the women's tournament is going to be fantastic, and there are a lot of betting opportunities. You want plus money, you want juice, it's in that tournament if you're willing to fade South Carolina.
Let's rip futures for that women's tournament. We're back in less than a minute. 3 picks to win the NCAA women's tournament next. Right here, it's Game Time Decisions. Welcome back in. Game Time Decisions live with you here on a Monday night. I'm Kevin Walsh. We are on SportsGrid. And, of course, the men's tournament bracket has been set. So has the women's tournament. And I'm loaded. Men's, preseason futures. Women's, none until today. I placed 3. I lined up 5 potential options. I'm going to take you through the process that I went through. Of course, find yourself the best numbers available because they do vary from book to book, and they can make a difference. Now, I want to start with this. The first team I went through and considered placing the wager on was South Carolina. Ultimately, now, earlier this morning, as low as -120, I don't see anything less than -140. South Carolina is not just the only unbeaten team in the country. The next closest top team with respect to, Fairfield and UNLV has 4 losses. And if you look through the history of this tournament, when it takes to win, very rarely does the team who wins this tournament lose 4 games. I went through it since 1982, 39 champs. Shout out Pat Summitt. She had a 10-loss team win this tournament. The second most ever is 6 losses. There have been 2 teams with 5 losses and 6 with 4. 29 of the 39 women's NCAA tournament champions lost 3 or fewer games. And the only high-ranking major team that is true of is the unbeaten South Carolina Gamecocks. It makes them an interesting option. But if you are betting them, you're betting no one else. You are placing your South Carolina wager, and you are banking on cashing that when this tournament ends. But it's understandable, but I'm not doing it. Radio audience in the Fold, Sirius XM Channel 159. Happy to have you here with us. It's Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. The reason I'm backing off South Carolina, while I think they're good, I don't feel they are as good as years prior. And maybe that is because while Camila Cardozo is obviously a WNBA level player, will be selected inside that top 10, she's not Aja Wilson. She's not Aaliyah Boston. Few are. But that star power matters. That top player matters. And I don't feel that South Carolina has that. And I need to feel that if I'm going to play them at the number that I'm going to play them at. And if you're willing to not play South Carolina, there's a lot of juice. The first bet I made was on the USC women at 50-1. This was over on DK. It has since come down to 40. You can find it as low as 30. But I am playing the USC women. They're the top seed in their bracket. Why such long odds? Because UConn is still eating up too much of the market. UConn you can find at 16-1. UConn is a 3 seed, not by mistake, because it's what they earned. Consistently beaten by the best teams in women's college all season long. And I'm willing to fade Ohio State as well. Here's the other story, though. They're both at the bottom of the bracket. So USC maxes out at playing one of them if those two can avoid upset. This is a great spot here to play USC, who should be favored to win this region that they're the number 1 overall seed in. At 50-1 with Ohio State and UConn in front of them, that is just wrong. It is. And again, I know other books, it's shifting, it's moving down, it should be, but still UConn and Ohio State are booked in front of USC, and that was a mistake. The next situation I rolled upon was deciding between Stanford and Texas. Now, I've actually lost a touch of value on the option that I decided. Both earlier today were sat at 16. At other spots, they're 15. They've come back to 18. And Texas was interesting because Texas, if you look this season, with just their 5 losses. They have only or 4 losses, excuse me. They've only lost to tournament teams. They've only lost to teams that are a 5th seed or better, and they've all been by 6 or fewer points. So they are a very difficult team to beat, and you obviously have to have a very legitimate pedigree to do it. The other team, though, being Stanford, wins out for me because they have more impressive victories. That's what it really comes down to. They might have had a worse loss their game to Arizona, but they have consistently beaten top team Stanford. Cameron Brink is their force down low, who can obviously still step out and stretch the floor and defend the rim at a high level here in the women's game. And at 16-1, I thought Stanford was worth it. And what that led to was me realizing that I believe the Pac-12 is the best conference in women's college hoops this year. So I thought about, at that point, maybe I'll play USC, Texas, and Stanford. But instead I played UCLA at 40-1. Now the danger on UCLA, who again has beaten a ton of top teams, and not just USC and Colorado, but wins over UConn and Ohio State. This, and again, all the losses are narrow outside of one time they were smashed by Stanford by 20. But if you take a look here, the worry is the strength of the Regional 2 in Albany. Iowa at the top, K-State is the 4, Colorado the 5, at the bottom, LSU the 3, and then UCLA sat there as the 2. But everybody remembers that opening game for LSU losing to Colorado. Why? Because the Pac-12 is the best conference in women's college hoops. Go through the 3 seeds or higher, right? If you go through those 12 teams, 4 are from the Pac-12. Double the next closest conference, with Stanford, USC, UCLA, and Oregon State, a 3 seed in the South Carolina region of it all. So I am trusting this conference and doing it at big numbers. Stanford the short at 16, UCLA is at 40, USC at 50. You can still get the USC at 40. I was going to bet USC at 36. Bet them at 40. That's fine. That's no issue. They're the number 1 seed in that bracket. And here's the benefit. While South Carolina, again, under Dawn Staley as a 1 seed since she broke through and won her first title, has very consistently lived up to expectations and at least made that Final Four. But if this team is knocked off by, a stunning result perhaps to Indiana, the 4 seed, who's good out of the Big Ten, if they're knocked off by Notre Dame, who I know they played early season, first game of the year in Paris and beat down, but the Irish have been playing much better basketball and earned that 2 seed. If they're knocked off, if South Carolina is all of a sudden removed, all of these numbers would be so much shorter that it is too tempting. And that's why I like having USC and UCLA only potentially seeing South Carolina in a title game. Stanford would see them in a Final Four matchup if they get there. But again, I'll take that. There's going to be 4 teams remaining at that point in time. I am willing to fade Iowa. Caitlin Clark is incredible. They got to the title game last year, but at points you can see they are vulnerable. And the same is with LSU. And I'm not playing either one of them at that 7-1 range. Gladly fading UConn. You're not going to go too far down the board here in this women's tournament, and I'm going to trust the best conference overall. Again, and here's the other thing quickly. If you can put one of USC or UCLA in the Final Four at 40 or 50-1, you're going to be in a phenomenal position to, at minimum, guarantee yourself some profit. So that is how we're going to bet the women's tournament. What we're going to do next is figure out how we're going to bet the men's tournament. And talk a little Justin Fields, as well as tonight's games, perhaps some sizzle plays. What does that mean? Joe Lisi, next here on Game Time Decisions. SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer powered by Marca. Only on SportsGrid.
Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough Jr. are not going to be fully healthy for the NCAA tournament. I think KU might be in danger of a very early round of 64 exit in the big dance.
They're playing really, really good defense, and to me, that's what you need this time of year. You got to be playing great defensively to give yourself a chance. Not like Kentucky, who gave up 97 last night.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
We're live on SportsGrid. It is Game Time Decisions. And as I said, we will be stepping it up come March, which means our best will be rolling, which means Joe Lisi will be in the mix as he is right now here on Game Time Decisions. Joe, how are you?
Oh, it's been too long, Kev. Too long for this show. I tell you, why don't we partner it up? Not this week, in 2 weeks. We get Sweet 16 action. We're going to take you from pillar to post. I can't wait, man.
Yeah, there's a day I'm working a double. I got an 11 to 1, and then I come back for a 9 to midnight with Lisi. All bets are off.
I'll drive the bus. Want me to drive the bus? I'll drive the bus.
Live here. Listen, I can't wait. As much as I want to get into the tournament, the people have to get your take and your breakdown from the Justin Fields situation. Now, I'll say, if you've given it out already on other shows, that's unacceptable, and we need to strike those from the record, okay? It needs to be given out here on Game Time Decisions. This is your guy. The Steelers have brought him in. How do you feel about the move?
I love it, and for twofold, Kev. Better weapons than what he had previously with Chicago and DJ Moore being the only number one on that offense, and a coach that actually believes in his ability in terms of Mike Tomlin, a coach that just coaches up younger talent offensively and defensively. He believes in younger players, can cultivate that talent that he couldn't get in terms of Chicago. And not only that, I believe the locker room's going to love Justin Fields. Keep in mind that he's about a 60 to 1 shot to win the MVP when Russ was about 100 to 1. And they went down all the way to 31 to 1 from 36 to 1 after they signed him. I love the move. I think he's going to be the starter no later than October 1st, if not sooner. And I think he leads them to a playoff appearance.
I think the worry for me is based on all the reporting. It feels like they've made promises to Russell Wilson that they have to break in order for Justin Fields to get his chance. I think they promised him the starting job, and I wonder if they've already promised him the contract that he's going to get next offseason from them, and that's my worry. Because Justin Fields should get a chance to compete with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is not like if Justin Fields would have landed in Philadelphia, he doesn't get a chance to compete against Jalen Hurts. I don't care how bad the season ended. He doesn't get that chance. He deserves a chance to compete with Russ, Joe, and I worry he's not going to get it.
It's possible, Kev, or are they actually putting more pressure on Russell Wilson to actually perform right from the get-go? If they name him the clear-cut starter and he implodes in the preseason, or more importantly, week 1 or 2 of the season, they never could go back to Russell Wilson, and maybe that's the plan overall, knowing that Justin Fields does have more of an upside because of the RPO game, because of his youth, because of where he is in terms of just his NFL career. And at the foremost, and I believe this, that, I don't think that Russell Wilson's going to hit the ground running. I just don't see it. I think you're going to get 170, 180 passing yards per game, exactly what you got out of Kenny Pickett. And that's not why they brought Russell Wilson in there, but that's why they brought Justin Fields there, to elevate this offense to the next level. And let's be honest, he showed that in limited glimpses in back-to-back games. He threw for 8 touchdown passes. He did have a 300-yard performance through the air. He did put 100 yards on the ground and multiple scores in terms of the RPO game. You have more of an offensive balance with Justin Fields than you do with Russell Wilson.
So let me ask you this, and you mentioned you're going to, play the Steelers' future.
I already took it.
But
36-1.
My thing is, you don't want that bet if Russ is playing quarterback for the long run, right?
Or
would you be willing to deal with the world where Russ has earned the job and keeps it?
Yes, I would live with that because it's a value perspective, Kevin. I only took it based off of value. Put it this way. If they were able to make the playoffs with a third-string quarterback and Mason Rudolph and a defense that you and I agreed wasn't elite, that now with a veteran quarterback and with even if they use Justin Fields in limited RPO type of packages, they're much more explosive with both of those guys than they were last year, right? And they did challenge Buffalo for the most part for a half. How could they be $20 more expensive, right? Or just out there at 36-1 than the New York Jets? How could the Jets be 16-1 with an aging quarterback, right? A coach that hasn't won anything, and just multiple question marks in a division much like the AFC North. I just don't see it. This is a team that actually made the playoffs with a third-string quarterback, and they're at 36-1 prior to Justin Fields when the Jets and Chargers were at 16 and 17-1 respectively.
I'll challenge you on the Jets a bit. So the Chargers are trying to rebuild, obviously, Herbert being the quarterback. I think the selling point on the Jets, more winnable division. People could disagree with that. I think the division's a little bit more winnable. The Ravens are so consistent since he can hit the level, and I don't think Cleveland gets enough respect. You and I both obviously liked them last season. The Jets' defense has proven to be consistent under Saleh with the guys that they have, and they have some money to spend and make that team a bit better. Now, the funny thing is, the reason their number is so much shorter is the thing that's going to stop me from betting the Jets, and that's Rodgers. Because it's a lot more now than just age. It's an aging quarterback coming off of an injury who might have lost his mind. That's where we're at now with that guy.
And not only that, Kev, I'll add the cherry on top. The last regular season that he played, he didn't play well. 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and he cost his team a playoff spot against the Detroit Lions. I think we're forgetting that as a whole, right? So here's the thing. You add the Rodgers factor with the Robert Saleh. I don't care what you say. He's a great defensive coordinator. That's great. He's not a great head coach. And if we're calling Saleh and Mike Tomlin apples to apples, I'm taking Mike Tomlin every day to Sunday before Robert Saleh in a big spot. So that's where it comes back to me. I don't believe at the middle part of the season the Steelers are going to be anywhere near 31-1, and that's why I jumped on at 36-1 respectively. Do I actually believe they'll win the AFC Championship? No, as of right now, but all you need is to get in, and anything can happen.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you this, because we haven't been able to talk football in a little bit together. The big running back moves. Derrick Henry and Saquon. I know Eckler, Jacobs, but Saquon and Henry are the biggest names of that bunch. Did you love one of those moves? Was one of those you?
Yeah, no, I like it for Baltimore because he's the bell cow, right? You had to split the back between, Gus Edwards and Justice Hill and the kid Coleman from East Carolina, right? So the whole thing is, instead of 3 backs, now you have one guy that can carry the rock for 20 to 25 times per game, wear down a defense, especially if you go to him each and every time, right? 2 yards, Derrick Henry can get you that. I like the move for Philly, but I told Donnie this, and he disagrees, but I disagree. Was Saquon Barkley the missing link for the Philadelphia Eagles? I don't believe so. I mean, DeAndre Swift still had tread on the tire, and he rushed for over 1,000 yards, and I think they went away from him at the end of the regular season. That's not to say maybe he's not a third down back, and that's where you get the added addition out of Saquon Barkley. But having him in that offense isn't, now I have to bet Philly to win the NFC Championship. That is not the game changer for me.
Their defense has to improve. I agree with you. It has a bit, right? The Devin White move, Bryce Huff, some nice things there. I think Saquon Barkley was an attempt for the Eagles to finally get some positivity around that team. Kelsey retired, Cox retired, the collapse. Is Sirianni going to be gone? All the offensive and defensive coordinators fired. And you might say that's a really expensive move to get some positivity. But Saquon here's the thing. On the outside, we can look at it and say a lot for a running back, and it's correct. But in that locker room, it's not. In that locker room, they believe they just brought in a top 20 player in this league. And it doesn't have to be true. It's how that feels. And, is A.J. Brown going to get traded? What are they going to pay Devonta Smith? They needed something like that. I believe that. I think that's why it happened. We're going to talk college on the other side. I'm going to just say this with Derrick Henry, and we've mentioned this, okay? On the short end of it, he's minus 125 at this moment for 10 rushing touchdowns. He has done that in 6 consecutive seasons. Gus Edwards had 13 last year. What are we doing? College basketball with Joe Lisi next. SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca. Only on SportsGrid.
Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough Jr. are not going to be fully healthy for the NCAA tournament. I think KU might be in danger of a very early round of 64 exit in the Big Dance.
They're playing really, really good defense, and to me, that's what you need this time of year. You got to be playing great defensively to give yourself a chance. Not like Kentucky, who gave up 97 last night.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Back right here, Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh, joined by Joe Lisi. Just talk some football. It's been a while, but I got to tell you, folks, I'm excited to talk some basketball with Joe. Truly, the NBA sizzle plays have always been my favorite, but we're stepping it up March Madness style here. And I know, listen, you know what's not fair? Put Joe on the screen, okay? What's not fair is how much time I spent with Joe and how much it has infiltrated how I think about everything. You know, because I hear, New Mexico, I heard it like 4 times. I mean, that team will be lucky to even show up to the game against Clemson. Like, you hear it too much. I want to start with this. For you, with the college hoops, Joe, are you going to be involved in the futures market, or do you want to just attack this game for game?
No, I'm involved in the futures. I'm going to be putting them on tonight, actually, when I go on radio with Carver in about 20 minutes. I'm on some 4 teams that I like their seeding. I like where they have in terms of the Elite 8 and the Final 4. I think they got value. I think the only team in terms of chalk, and when we talk about the top 4 teams or number 1 seeds, the only one I potentially would bank on to make the Final 4 or win it all is UConn, because I believe they're battle-tested. That's not to take away from the other 3 teams, especially Houston, that stepped up in the Big 12 this year, but I just don't have confidence in terms of the long road of the NCAA tournament. I do believe in Hurley, and I do believe in the UConn Huskies, but I have some other dark horses that I'm looking at, guys.
You know what's so interesting with UConn? You mentioned battle tested. Now, they played a great out of conference, so you're correct. But one of the underrated things about the Big East getting only 3 teams in is the number 1 overall seed is UConn. And look, a part of that sure is them beating North Carolina, beating Gonzaga. They did lose to Kansas. Those were the big games that they stepped up for. Okay, sure, they beat Texas on a neutral, but that was that. The committee told us, well, we don't love the Big East, right? Split with Creighton, they got in. Smashed Marquette, awesome. Second time they played them, closer game, but no Tyler Kolek, so it's a different situation. Nobody else made the tournament. Yeah, it doesn't mean it wasn't some quality teams. I think St. John's belonged in. Seton Hall, Providence, we can have conversations, but it's very interesting to me because, and it'll be hindsight, right? But this committee told us we didn't like the Big East. Well, what does that then say about UConn, who beat up on this conference all year long, Joe?
Well, you're right. I think it's as a whole, right, Kev? I think you actually look at like the Big East as you look at the Big 12 in college football, right? It's the SEC, it's the Big 10 that go number 1 and number 2, and we're willing to take the conference champion because we have to.
Good point.
They're the Big 12, and it's UConn that won it all last year. Outside of that, teams like Seton Hall and St. John's and Providence, they're not marquee names. Now, they do have the marquee coach in regards to Pitino. I think, obviously, if they would have gotten the victory over UConn, they would have been in. But what about Seton Hall? I mean, they knocked around a bunch of teams in their conference and still are on the outside looking in. It goes to household names, right? We've seen a little bit of a transition now. We've seen the Drakes and, even though Indiana State didn't make it in, the more of the media hype to some of the smaller schools, and that's where maybe it takes away from the middle of the road Big East teams that they're used to getting the coverage, right? We're used to Syracuse and the ACC and all those teams, and they're not there anymore. So that's why they turn to maybe more of these other conferences, and that's why some of the Power Fives or elite, conferences only got 2 or 3.
I think it's a really interesting situation that, again, is going to unfold here, and we'll be covering it the whole way. So tell me, What's one of the games that has caught your eye? I mean, I know the sizzles come across the board. What are you seeing early?
Well, I like Gonzaga. I like that, and I know that a lot of people like the dog in terms of that matchup, -6.5. And I know they lost the conference championship to St. Mary's, but I just think Gonzaga's flying under the radar, not in regards to just a round one game, but just overall as a whole. I think they're very live to make the Elite Eight, and more importantly, the Final Four. The fact that there's no pressure on Mark Few this year, the fact that they don't have the elite, guy that they can count on overall, they're playing more as a team. I think that is more beneficial to Gonzaga as a program, where they could shock some people. And it's not going to be easy. I understand that, but I still like them to obviously win round one and cover, but make it to the Final Four as well.
Yeah, I like this Gonzaga team before the year. Obviously, they hit a rough patch. They've been excellent for a while now, and the committee rewarded them with the 5th seed. Now they are playing, one of the best mid-majors in McNeese, no doubt. But look, man, Mark Few is very good early in this tournament. That's the thing, man. That's the perception. Like, Mark Few, no, he's not crossed the finish line and won a tournament. He's awesome in this tournament, though. Right?
Yes.
Don't you dare put Mark Few and Matt Painter in the same conversation. I don't mean Joe.
No.
I mean
or Rick
anybody
Barnes.
that would dare.
Don't put Rick Barnes
100%.
there either. I agree.
And they're all in that same region.
And that is exactly why I like to back teams that play more. Again, they can run. They can play a little half court as it opposed to as they played St. Mary's. We know their conference. There's teams that slow it down, so they're built for this. Again, they're not looked at as like the darlings anymore. They're looked at as it's Gonzaga, and I like that. If we're talking value, that's where I want to jump on a team. Again, they don't have household names. They're blue collar. They're not elite this year, and that's why I'm willing to jump on them. Especially now when they have a round one game where everybody's starting to salivate to take the dog because it is McNeese State, an above average and one of the better quality teams that you mentioned in terms of the group of five, or as we like to say, mid-majors. I like that matchup. I'm laying it, in terms of round one. I have no problem with it.
Alt? Now that's what I need.
You see,
what gets alted? What gets like for you? Here's my question, right? Because obviously we've done all the football, right? When it comes to the Joe Lisi best bet of the day, like is it going to be finding a total, right? Or is it a prop? Where does it go?
No, it's usually a dog. Or here's the way I bet, and this is especially tournament time. This is the way I bet. I pick teams that I already like to start, right? And I wait for them to in terms of matchup. So I really like this matchup. I like Gonzaga as a whole. The 6.5 doesn't bother me. Typically, any team under five or less, I'm willing to bet that type of favorite if it's a team I believe in regards to big picture. Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four. Any dog that I like or that I think is undervalued in terms of the spread, so like anything over 6, if I think the dog is live, I'm jumping on the dog with the points, and I'm jumping on the dog with the money line in terms of that. So, Texas Tech, they're favored against NC State. But if you believe NC State could go to the Elite 8, I would jump on NC State plus the 4.5, plus the money line. Now, I love the kid Burns. I do. The big boy.
Like him.
Nobody know, and I was on him last year, and they sort of hurt me. But this year, the fact that they knocked off Virginia, they showed me a little something. But they're going up against Texas Tech. That's another team that's very close to my heart. But they're dead to me after they got boat raced by Houston. So I'm leaning to the pack. Let's go back to the days of Jimmy Valvano, baby. Let's go. Wolfpack are barking. Rah, rah, rah.
Man, what a shame LSU isn't in this tournament. Many are saying that you're going to be betting. Wait, you better. They're in the NIT playing North Texas, the defending champs.
Yes, and LSU.
Maybe Jaden Daniels will show up for that game, see if he can win something.
Nussmeier? Maybe. You never know. Let me just say this. I'm going to go off on a Kevin Walsh rant. The fact that all these gutless teams, and I'm calling out Rick Pitino and St. John's, you're too good for the NIT? You're too good? You're turning the page to next year? What about developing young talent? You need all the help you can get to challenge a team like UConn next year. Come on now. Playing games in March as opposed to making TikToks. Stop.
look, this is something, though, Joe, that you can speak to across the landscape. There is a very obvious problem with what I am assuming, admittedly, is an easy fix. I know a lot of people hate NIL. They hate the portal. I get it. Free agency exists in sports. Right. I know it is. It feels uncontrollable at the college level right now. You cannot open the portal before the season is over. It is that simple, Joe. And the fact that that is going on, it's why the bowl games look the way they do, and it's why you now have Mike Woodson openly saying, no, we can't go to the NIT. I have to go out there and recruit. I don't know if it's not easy. I'm assuming it is. If it's not, figure it out. The portal cannot open this early. It can't.
No, they need to stop it in college football, and they need to stop it in basketball as well. And it starts with the coaches as well. When the coaches used to take the money bag and jump to the next school before the ball game, they should have been scorned in terms of that type of situation as well. They shouldn't be able to move until after the regular season, and especially leaving the kids high and dry. So it's a twofold type of situation. But it's gotten out of control here. So let me just write down this. I like James Madison round 1 plus the 5.5 against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's gutless to me. Other teams that I'm taking in regards to the Final Four. Love Illinois. Love their athleticism. I think they're live. Marquette as well. Keep an eye out for them. Big picture. I like Marquette. I think they're battle tested as well. 5-1. They could have some life.
Interesting. Hot on his Big East is the read. All of a sudden, hot on this Big East.
And one more. Alabama got a 4 seed. If they were a 2 or a 3, I'd say no. The fact that they got a 4 and they can run, they don't live and die like Creighton on the 3, they can make noise as an outlier.
I like that Crimson Tide team as well. What a blast this is going to be. We will talk to Joe throughout the week right here on Game Time Decisions. Dave Sharapan is up next. SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca. Only on SportsGrid.
Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough Jr. are not going to be fully healthy for the NCAA tournament. I think KU might be in danger of a very early round of 64 exit in the Big Dance.
They're playing really, really good defense, and to me, that's what you need this time of year. You got to be playing great defensively to give yourself a chance. Not like Kentucky, who gave up 97 last night.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night, I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. Game Time Decisions. This has been an absolute treat. I know we haven't hit everything going on tonight. We've hit it a little bit. Kristaps is about to start with that 27.5 points, rebounds. We'll get to it. We're all tournament crazy right now. Appreciate Joe Ranieri, Tom Vecchio, Joe Lisi all getting in the mix. Dave Sharapan joins here now for the final, 15 or so. And Consig, I've been looking forward to this all day. How are you, friend?
Yes, sir. I'm good. It's a great week. A lot of things happening. I heard you and Lisi going back and forth about the portal. That was it's a very interesting discussion. It has to change. It's messing up the integrity of the games. You can't have the games if there's no integrity, and coaches are choosing not to go. I don't know. We were talking to somebody last night about this NIT. These are betting opportunities, K-Dub. There's going to be some good basketball games in the NIT.
Yeah, sure is. The NIT looks awesome. They're going to hang the futures market for that NIT?
Oh, that's a limited market. There's going to be
Why?
We'll do game by game on those. If you know a guy that wants to put those up, we can talk. But that's one of those things that, because they're not neutral sites, it's a different beast, where they're playing and different things like that. It would go into making the odds, but there'll be a book that puts it up somewhere. If you find it, know the number, text me. Let's go.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Consig was hearing from me more than usual about this Texas A&M run that what happened. Did
you see that number? Hey. I immediately thought of you when I saw that number. I immediately thought of you. I was going to text
2.5, 5.5, and I was like, "Well, that's good, isn't it?" Like, yeah, it is. Yeah. Worked out. All right, tell me this.
Yes, sir.
What is it like, for guys in the room now? And you can tell me, is this how it's always been? Because now, the bracket 640 by 8 p.m. Almost every round is 64 games up. Is this how it's always been? And this is just a crazy time? These guys know what they like? They know the numbers or that process?
Oh, it's easy. I had a friend, his name's Rob Mish, wrote an article about it, the guys at the South Point, how they do it. It's a fun night. Usually you get the boys together, the college basketball guys, sit there and make the strongest arguments. It's probably like it is in the committee room, where there's really a couple diehards that have it down and everybody else is kind of making their case. Only the committee can just award bids and give people seeds, and there's no real repercussions. When you make a mistake in the book and in the room, you're immediately alerted with a limit play against whatever number you put up. You put up 147 on a game and somebody disagrees, boom, over. 151, 149, whatever you got to move it to. So it's a fun week, but this is one of the easiest weeks to book. You have all the action. Yeah, this is a public event. A lot of the sharps are on vacation this week. They take off. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I'm presently struggling with is, I think New Mexico is at the moment the most interesting team from the betting angle in the opening round.
Mm-hmm.
They're an 11 seed. I think we all know they should be more than an 11 seed. Every advanced metric loves them.
everybody loves the basketball team.
Yep.
They are a 2.5-point favorite over the 6th seed.
They are.
The thing is, if you do this for, a length of time, when everybody loves a team, you usually step out of the way. I'm not telling you I'm about to be giving you out Clemson. I can't get there. But it's the type of thing that I can't do this. I can't. If every single person I talk to likes New Mexico, this can't be, right? Like, you say it's an easy week to book, but it feels like, there maybe will be, and, 4 or 5 sides that are like, all right, we need this to go our way, right? And it seems like Clemson's going to be one of them.
Without a doubt. A lot of times, from the book's perspective, you put up the number and you just let it sit there. There won't be much line move with a lot of these numbers. I mean, very rarely do you have college basketball games sit for 4 days. You put these lines up Sunday, you start to see some little moves Sunday, then it kind of gets up on the paint, the paint dries on the board and it sits there. And there's 2 sides to a game. We do content for 4 days. By the time the Super Bowl started, the Chiefs were the side and the Niners were the side. And, we're in our own bubble here, K-Dub. Unlike the bubble that got burst for so many teams in the Big East yesterday that didn't get in, there's going to be a public side to every game. It might win. This is one of those weeks where public side can win too, whether it's the public side or not. McNeese State will fall in love with them this week. James Madison, you said it. That's another one. It's gaining a lot of steam. Like we'll hear about St. Mary's and Grand Canyon. Perfect number. 5 is a perfect number. It's not going to move much.
Yeah.
It's going to be action to balance it all over the place.
I think for me, because I think it's the same for a lot of us, right? But like, it's just the amount we're all invested in is upticked. And I think now, look, I mean, don't fool yourself. I'm going to be involved in every round of 64 game. But it feels like the round of 32 is where I'll be more comfortable.
Yes.
Because one of my favorite things to do, this is something that Consig and I have been doing a long time, is the spread math, right? Well, hold on a minute. If they're laying 4 on Thursday, and now all of a sudden they're laying 9, that doesn't sound right. Aren't they supposed to be playing a more difficult team? What did we do? What just happened?
Yes.
So I think those are going to kind of be the things that start to settle in. I think what's really interesting, though, we'll see how it looks, but the one thing the books will be doing on Thursday and Friday that they have not done all year long, this is rarely true, is putting props up for certain teams. Look, they've booked R.J. Davis props all year long. They've been getting Filipowski overs. It's fine, okay? It's all of a sudden they're hanging the lead scorer on Vermont, right? They're hanging his number. That's the difference. And I think that's going to be really interesting, Consig, to be involved with a lot of those markets and trying to see what, if anything, jumps off of the page.
Without a doubt. A lot of those numbers are soft as could be. They're basically just taking imported numbers or they're taking somebody else's word for it. A lot of those are outsourced.
Yeah.
And I mean, what's happening in a couple states, though, they're outlawing college sports props, individual props on teams and stuff. So this might be the last hurrah for that stuff in a lot of states. I think that's where a lot of the states are pushing back. Yeah, where they're getting the books to kind of agree to disagree on things. The books are going, you know what? We'll give up the college player individual props because they're not really giving up that much. It is a limited market. A lot of razor blades get involved in that. And, the books are happy to say, you know what? We don't have to do that. That's okay.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Like for myself, I love it, but I think, and it's all about how I guess the games are, but this, right? I mean, the NFL props, the amount of, like, you listen to people break down the NFL, they're betting props more than sides at times, right? So, props are very popular, but people are far more familiar with betting Pat Mahomes than, again, even betting Zach Edey, right? So that's where it's different. NIT odds up.
FanDuel Sportsbook up.
Oh.
Let me tell you this.
Oh.
See, and these have not been up all day, I imagine.
No.
This feels. I'm just gonna read something to you.
Okay, give it to me.
Plus 600, plus 700, plus 750, plus 900, plus 900. From what I've learned, they said, "All right, look, man, just throw it up there. They'll bet it. We'll figure it out." Right? Is that what that is? Forget the team names.
Who's the biggest name? That's the plus 650. Is Indiana State one of those 5?
They're 9-1. Indiana State.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Wake is the favorite.
Is the plus 650, right?
So I would say Nova's bigger than Wake Forest, right? Wake. If you attach
Probably.
names to it,
Yeah.
it's
Probably.
Wake, Ohio State, Villanova, Indiana State, Cincinnati. Which I think, to your point,
Ohio State. That makes sense. That was a team that had a great run late. That's probably one of the teams I would make one of the odds-on favorites just based on name. But yes, those numbers. There's not much opinion in those numbers. It's a math problem. Put them up. See what they bet.
I got to tell you,
what
this NIT is the best thing that's ever happened.
Find something? Did you find something?
Here's what it is. Here's what it like, and I don't usually feel this way. I think they go, "Hey, KW, you good to do the NIT? You've been talking about it all day." No, I'm not doing it. I'm not getting fired over this. I'm not hanging UC Irvine 100-1. Are you crazy? I'm not getting fired. Are you nuts? I'm not
how
doing
many
this.
games does it
No
take
way.
to win it, though? How many games does it take? Because it takes 6 games to win the NCAA.
1, 2, 3.
It's 5 games, right? Or is it 5?
Is it 4 or is it 5? That's your first win. That's your second win. That's your third
32.
win.
There's 32 teams.
I think it might be. I think it might take 4.
It's a 4-game parlay.
Unless I'm.
It can't be 100-1. Nothing's 100-1.
3.
Parlay.
No, I think it's 4. Oh, I wasn't counting the first game. My bad. You're right. It's 5. Yeah. 5 games. My bad. I wasn't counting the first game.
Okay. But either way, that's why those numbers, those big numbers, aren't like gigantic. Because you're right. I mean, you don't want to get fired over NIT odds. Somebody's like, we talk about it on the show. You start putting it out. You get an 80-1 like you did on Texas A&M. That guy that okayed your bet was sweating your bet going into that second and last game. Had they got to Sunday, he would have been a big fan of the other team. So we can't get too crazy with it.
I'll throw.
You found something.
Okay.
You did the giggle. You found something.
It just doesn't make sense. Like App State, they're throwing App State out there at 130, right? Because they're playing Wake, who is the favorite, right? But
yeah,
App State would have been like a 12. Wake would have been an 11. Like I get it's the home court. It's the home court.
But it's sometimes some guys will overvalue it. Me and you might sit down to do this, and I might go, well, Wake doesn't really have a big home court. And you're like, well, no, look at their numbers. They were, 13-4 at home during the season against the spread. We got to move it up. Okay. Well, you move it up in the futures. You only move it up in the future.
There's 9 teams that are 100. Here's my first read. Nobody do this. I won't do this. 9 teams 100-1 or longer. I want to bet all 9 of them. And we'll go from there. What do I need to do? Put 2 in the next round?
See if we can ask Sam for a loan. Maybe we'll ask Sam for a loan. We'll take a shot and we'll do this.
How many teams? All right, I'm going to be live until midnight tonight doing NIT breakdown, apparently.
Text me later.
I will. Hold on a SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
Unlike the last one, I don't think these managers are going to sign up for a 1-1 draw. I think the Spurs know they need to win this one. They need the full 3 points to try to get into Champions League position.
But generally speaking, I find Klopp and Liverpool's approach to be much more effective, which is you disrupt those patterns of play, you get in the middle of those triangles, and you put them on the back foot.
Pro League Soccer powered by Marca. Only on SportsGrid.
Hunter Dickinson and Kevin McCullough Jr. are not going to be fully healthy for the NCAA tournament. I think KU might be in danger of a very early round of 64 exit in the Big Dance.
They're playing really, really good defense. And to me, that's what you need this time of year. You got to be playing great defensively to give yourself a chance. Not like Kentucky, who gave up 97 last night.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think GameTime Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to GameTime Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than GameTime Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into GameTime Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions. We're closing it out right here on SportsGrid. Chris Stapps with a sizzle start in that first quarter. 8 points, 5 rebounds. So he is almost halfway home against the Detroit Pistons on his 27.5 points plus rebounds prop. Let's hope we can have a hot little night here in the NBA. Appreciate everybody that stopped by. Tomorrow the tournament technically begins. It doesn't really begin until Thursday. You know that, but we'll get through it all. The NIT really begins. There's no world I don't come in here without an NIT future. There's no world. So we'll be in the mix with that. We went through the women's futures today. If you did miss those, 3 Pac-12 teams, Stanford, USC, and UCLA are the 3 teams I'm going to play to win the women's national tournament outright here. We have an NBA best bet to close it out. It's like trends, right? You guys like trends? 5 straight games the New York Knicks have played have gone under the listed total. All 5 of those games have failed to see 200 points put on the board. Give me over 211.5 Knicks Warriors. No hesitation. This is absurd. Listen, if the Knicks have legitimately broke basketball backwards and all their games are going to be played this low, then so be it. OG Anunoby out, so you lessen some of the defensive talent that the Knicks are going to be able to provide in a game like this. Golden State saw Steph come back against the Lakers, and that game nearly touched 250. The Warriors at home offensively will be in a rhythm. Brunson has been playing great hoop with 2 40-plus games in a row. Ultimately, I have to play 211.5. The Knicks went to Sacramento. It was 217.5. So this is now 6 full points lower here in a game against the Warriors. And I'm going to play it over the number at 211.5. If you need an additional sizzle, let's go D'Angelo Russell over 23.5 points plus assists in the game tonight between the Lakers and the Hawks. D'Lo filled in great with that Anthony Davis absence from last game while AD is back. I think D'Lo stays in rhythm. Could be a down night for the King in a Lakers win over Atlanta. Kevin Walsh, see you tomorrow. Game Time Decisions. Good luck.